Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Josh Black. I'm a senior concept artist at Stoke Games, and I also teach figure drawing and anatomy here on my YouTube channel, where I share tips and insights from my years of studying figure drawing and gesture drawing. And I also have my tutorials, brush packs, and ebooks on Gumroad and Proko.com. Today I wanted to go over an exercise that I strongly recommend if you're wanting to dive into portraiture but maybe don't quite have the full confidence of tackling a three-quarter or a frontal perspective of the face. I would start out with doing studies of the profile. I think this is a great way to build confidence, and the reason why it's easier is you can see the silhouette more easily, especially the nose, the lips, the chin. You can see the jawline, the hair silhouette is easier to read, and you don't have to worry so much about keeping symmetry in perspective, which is the most difficult thing. And yeah, this is a great way to warm up your hand in your wrist and your hand-eye coordination, and maybe get some wins to build up your confidence a little bit. So I picked this image for us to start off with. When I do these videos, I'm really hoping that those watching, if you want to, of course, that you follow along and try to draw along with me and do the exercise with me. And that way I feel like we're doing this together as a class, and I can do more of these videos more often, and we can kind of treat it as our own little group study session that we're doing. So let's get started. This guy here, I'm going to use the Lumis method, and for those that are familiar with the Lumis method, you know that we start off with a light sphere to indicate the mass of the cranium. And when we're doing the profile, I'm going to cut that sphere in half vertically to kind of find where we'll place the ear, and then also horizontally to find the brow line. And about a third the way down to find the eye line. And I think, just to make this easier, we're going to do more of a one-for-one so we can see where those lines will line up. And to find the base of the ear, it's usually at the base of the cranium. Probably go a little bit higher. Typically that'll lead us to the base of the nose, but you can see it looks like his head is tilted up ever so slightly, so the base of the ear doesn't quite line up with the base of the nose. And so now that we have this line here, this side will be where we add the face shield. So I'm just going to do that light line to indicate the front of the face. And here I'm using my soft sketch brush that I really enjoy for sketching, and I love it because it has pressure sensitivity, so I can do these light lay-in lines just to block things out. Here I'm gonna just block out gesture of the neck. Get the collar of his corduroy jacket, looks like. The ear will be placed behind the jaw, the back of the jaw, usually in that lower left quarter of that kind of pie chart that you blocked out at the beginning. So I like to use straights to kind of block in the mass of the ear. You can see his ears kind of tilted back a little bit. We can follow that. So right here it looks like the top of the ear is actually flowing into the eye. So I'm just going to do a light indication. Sorry, I can't talk right now. Indication of the base of the upper eyelid. Then I'm going to block out that beautiful shape of his eyebrows. Indicate the indentation of the nose right there, of the brows. And pull out that straight of the nose. You can kind of see, as I said earlier, his nose is a bit higher than the base of his ear, so I'm going to do a little angled line to show me where I need to place that. Block out the wing of his nose, the nostril. We get that graphic profile shape of the eye. See, I'm just using straight lines right now. Get the base of the nose there, the philtrum. Show where it feeds into the philtrum, which feeds into the upper lip there. And typically the upper lip will overhang the lower lip a bit, but again, I think his head is tilted back ever so slightly. You can see the back of his eye will typically line up with that front plane of the neck. Here we have that neck muscle, the sternocleidomastoid, feeds into mastoid process behind the ear, the base of the skull. You get that nice soft curve indicating that muscle. All right, let's save it real quick. I'm going to double up this layer just so you can see where we're at. You can see right now it's a lay-in, so I'm using lots of construction lines just to make sure everything is lining up as it should. And then, later on, as you're finalizing the drawing, you can erase those out. Okay, let's save it. Just blocking out the lapel. We can indicate that seam feeds into the top of the shoulder. Now I'm going to go ahead and block out the shape of the hair, the hairline. You can see his forehead slopes back. Then we have that protrusion of the brow, or the superciliary eminence. You can see there's that nice kind of line that separates the values, those two distinct values in his hair. Right. Get that back upper plane of the head, back of the head. You can see it angles forward, and I would suggest using straights to block out the silhouette of the hair, because you can always go back in and round those corners off, but the straights will really help you focus on kind of the angles and those minute directional changes in the silhouette of the hair. Now we'll start blocking out the anatomy of the ear. Pull that earlobe forward. Get that overlap. Show how that kind of turns into the concha. Indicate the tragus and the antitragus. There's the triangular fossa. And here on the outside we have the shape of the helix. Okay, we can go ahead and add the eyeball inside of those eyelids. Indicate the roundness of the eyeball. So I want to get that kind of hook shape, those upper eyelashes kind of curling up at the tips. Fill in those eyebrows. Here we get a little indication of the cheekbone. block out the edge of the side of the cheeks there. Now I'm just going to fill in the value of the hair. Just kind of building it up. Again, I want to get that separation. Okay, I think I made the corners of the mouth a little too dark and curled up a little too much. Okay, I think that's feeling pretty good. Let's go ahead and fill in the value of his jacket. And this is still a sketch, so we're not trying to approximate the values just yet. We're just kind of separating the shapes more than anything. All right, let's save it. Okay, so I mean already there's some things that I need to correct. You can see his lips here coming out a little too far. So I'm going to pull that back. I'm just using the transform tool. And I'm going to keep an eye on how that kind of lines up with the tip of the nose and the back side of the nostril. So yeah, I think we can move I can see the corner of the mouth is lining up with the back of the nostrils there. So I needed to pull that back more. And yeah, his upper lip is a little too big. That lower lip needs to be more dominant. Okay, so this is a decent block in. And now what I like to do is lower the opacity of that layer, and then I'm going to go back over it, kind of clean it up. Indicate that plane below the jaw. I think the mouth is definitely feeling better. So I'm going to use straights on the upper uh, shape of the eyelid, then more of a curve at the base. Let's get that nice contrast. Whenever you can, you want to get those straights against curves, the tapering forms and offset curves. Those are all, um, strong design elements that you want to incorporate in your sketches. Yeah, you can see how helpful it is to have that initial lay-in. You can see a little bit of his eyelash from his other eye poking out. So I want to indicate that. Just lightening that line on his upper lip there was getting a little too strong. You can see the planes of the muzzle surrounding the lips. So I want to indicate that. Add some more dimension to the chin. You got the planes of the side planes of the nose, the maxilla. All right, we're going to speed this up a little bit. It's taking a little too long. Again, just going to block out the silhouette of the hair with some straights. And then later, just to show some of the texture, we can go in and kind of break up those straights, some smaller forms. Just kind of roughly block in the texture of the corduroy pattern. Just get the dark accent of the ear canal. You can punch that dark accent of the nostril. Okay, I think we're about done. Of course, we could spend a lot more time and start rendering this out and defining the values a lot better, but I think we're accomplishing our goal of just getting a nice gesture. So let's save it. Okay, so I'm going to flatten all the layers. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to use the lasso tool. The hotkey for that is you just hit L on your keyboard. And then I'm going to cut, Control X, paste, Control V, and oops, I'm getting used to this 2026 version of Photoshop. Just shrink that down a little bit more. And I think we did a pretty good job. It's not a bad profile. Not a perfect likeness, but I think it was a good exercise. We can just work on it a little bit more, just to give it a little more energy. And one thing that's really important is just finding that kind of tilt of the head. And I like to do that with that kind of half a lip shape, which kind of wraps around the face. And also, yeah, finding some of those other areas where things line up, accentuating that, some gestural lines. You can see there's that kind of plane under the jaw there. Yeah, I think I'm adding a little too much. Again, this is just a sketch, so I think this is a good place to stop. And one thing, let's see, before we call it, let's go ahead and just gonna add a few little overlaps here with the texture of the hair, just to give this hair shape just a little more dimension. All right. So I think we can call it. You can see it's always tempting to keep going. But what I would recommend is just doing maybe a page of these profile sketches to help you kind of build up your confidence when it comes to tackling gestures. My goodness. Sorry, I think I just got something stuck in my throat. Um, and if you want to darken your image, you can just duplicate. I duplicate the layer. My gosh. Ooh. Sorry about that. Okay, let's save it, and I'm going to try to get some water so I can talk here. Okay, so I think that's a good place to stop. Again, I'm going to try to do 2 to 3 of these studies a week. That's the goal. Make these shorter videos, 15 to 20 minutes. Let me know if you like that format and if you'd like to see more. Also, if you want to leave in the comments what you'd like me to do studies of, where we can study those things together and ask each other questions on how to approach these exercises. I'd love to hear from you. Definitely appreciate all your support and hope you're doing well this new year with your art goals. And thanks again for watching until the end, and until next time. All right, bye.